Tonight, community members are demanding answers about critical infrastructure in the Cainhoy area.
That's right. What started as a community meeting bringing together residents and community leaders to discuss the Cainhoy development agreement quickly turned into addressing other major community concerns in the area.
Live 5's Victoria Blair joining us live tonight after attending the meeting at Philip Simmons Elementary School. Victoria, good evening. What more can you tell us about the concerns that the community had tonight?
Tonight, the community made their voices heard loud and clear, bringing up concerns about traffic, road safety, and the importance of smart development.
I am a voter, I am a taxpayer, and I deserve an answer.
A lot of frustration in the room, primarily about traffic, which is something that we hear often and frankly is completely understandable because the public infrastructure is far behind the private development on Cainhoy Peninsula, but really all over Charleston and the Low Country.
Tonight's community meeting was packed with residents voicing their concerns to elected officials on the city, county, and state level about critical infrastructure.
Moved out of town of Mount Pleasant thinking I was escaping the sprawl and the large growth and move out to Hugie, buy some land, and now it's at my back door.
Local residents also don't believe there is proper infrastructure to support the growing development in the area, leading to more traffic.
We have tremendous growth in this county, and it would be quite a day if people can get to soccer practice on time, get home to dinner on time, have more time with family than sitting in traffic.
City, county, and state officials listened to community concerns tonight and stressed that they do hear these worries and shared how they are working to improve your quality of life.
One of the things that the city is doing is going ahead and buying land for fire stations, for police stations, for recreational facilities, so that we can be ahead of the curve and have those facilities built when the growth comes.
People are concerned about growth in this region, and we have used Greenbelt funds to protect over 2,000 acres of property in this region in the last year. So we've been listening for a long time, but there's so much more to do.
Addressing critical infrastructure also raises concerns about protecting the environment with wetlands and wildlife in the area.
This isn't about not growing. This is about growing in a way that respects what makes the Low Country so special, respecting our waterways, respecting our wetlands, respecting our marsh habitats. If we can do that, we can thrive together. And growing at the expense of our environment is not the way to go.
Some residents were worried that not all of their questions were answered, but community leaders say they are taking your concerns seriously and want to find effective solutions.
There are two major bills that are going through right now. One is to completely reform DOT, which would help on the permitting process, help on the time factor. And then another one is concurrency bill, which would require infrastructure to be in place, particularly state infrastructure, before developments can happen.
City and county leaders want you to know that they are listening and are actively working to address these traffic and infrastructure concerns as holistically as possible. In Cainhoy, Victoria Blair, Live 5 News.